All right, good morning, everyone. It is Monday, June 15th at 11:05, and we will call the Electric Utility Board meeting to order. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone signed up? Public comment? Mr. Rose?
I'll read this off, and then I know there's a 3-minute limit. It's kind of long, so I don't know if I'll just... Okay. Greetings. For months, we've been going back and forth with LP&L over a meter that was incorrectly installed during the smart meter installation. Our account was open 5 months prior to the installation with no conflicts. The conflict started after the smart meter installation, which has resulted in an offset of $317, which has resulted in almost a year-long debate of responsibility. We've been told thus far the builder crossed the wires after a debate of how the house would have been approved. This reason would never have been proved if this reason were true. The installer got the meters backwards. We stood on the grounds that the offset of the bill would not be our responsibility because it was not our installation, nor was it the responsibility to ensure the installer verified address prior to installation. The liability would be on that part on the contractor. The most recent one has been that the builder labeled the meter post incorrectly. Again, we defend this as this would not have been on the contractor, as we did not hire the builder, nor are we the property owner. This is a rental property. We have no liability as to how this residence was built. LP&L has responded with documents claiming that it is our responsibility, but the documents prove that it was not a problem before the smart meter upgrade. Therefore, there are no conflicts for them to confirm. Our argument on this is if there were no issue with the upgrade, then the issue lies with the upgrade. Evidently, the initial installation was correct and the upgrade was not. They have also requested that we pay the offset and seek restitution through the contractors. We replied by telling them that this would not be their responsibility, not ours. As a customer, we do not deny a debt is owed to LP&L. We only deny liability. LP&L sent multiple bills requesting payment for the new charges despite being contacted.
Matt, this is Mark. The Zoom attendees can't hear you. You're going to have to turn your microphone on.
It's on. It is on. Yeah.
He's red. He should be broadcasting.
Can you hear me? Do I need to start over? I'm out of breath. Okay. Does it work? Okay. So what's the verdict? Do I need to start over again? Okay. Starting over. Greetings. For months, we've been going back and forth with LP&L over a meter that was incorrectly installed during the smart meter installation. Our account was open 5 months prior to this installation with no conflicts. The conflict started after the smart meter installation. This has resulted in an offset of $317, which has resulted in almost a year-long debate of responsibility. We've been told thus far the builder crossed the wires after a debate of how the house would have been approved. This reason was changed. The installer got the meters backwards. We stood on the grounds that this was an offset of the bill that would not be our responsibility because it was the installer, nor was it our responsibility to ensure the installed verified address prior to installation. This liability would be part of the contractor's responsibility. The most recent one has been that the builder labeled the meter post incorrectly. Again, we defend that this would have been the liability of the contractor, as we did not hire the builder, nor are we the property owner. This is a rental. We have no liability as to how the residence was built. LP&L has responded with documents claiming that it is our responsibility, but the documents prove our point that before the smart meter upgrade, there were no conflicts, to which they confirm. Our argument on this has been there was no issue before the upgrade, then the issue lies with the upgrade. Evidently, the initial installation was correct and the upgrade was not. They've also requested us to pay the offset and seek restitution to the contractors. We reply by telling them that this would not be our responsibility, not ours as a customer. We do not deny it as a debt, that a debt is owed. We only deny liability. LP&L sent us multiple bills requesting for payment of new charges, despite being contacted that the new charges had already been paid, and confirming this with confirmation numbers and bank track numbers. Regular emails have been sent demanding payment as well. We have contacted the Texas PUC, and they have directed us to you, saying that we are required to reach out to the local city council and governing board for resolution, seeking resolution with them. I've come into contact with many LP&L employees and customers stating that they are having the same issue with the upgrade. One employee told me how a business and residential meter got swapped, causing massive offsets. If you need any information from us, please do not hesitate to send an email, and we will send the requested information as soon as physically possible. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Comments? Any further input on y'all, or? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rose. Anyone else signed up in person or via email? That was the only one? Okay. We're now recessing into executive session in accordance with 1 VTCA Government Code 551.086 on competitive matters of LP&L, 2 VTCA Government Code 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, and value of real property, 3 VTCA Government Code 551.071 seeking advice of and consultation with its attorneys, and 4 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, and/or duties of a public officer or employee.
Lubbock City Council will hold an executive session today for the purpose of consulting with city staff regarding competitive matters of the public power utilities under Section 551.086 of the Texas Government Code, to discuss pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers, and to hold consultation with attorneys under Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property under Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code, and finally, to discuss personnel matters under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. The Lubbock City Council is in executive session. It is 11:14.
Is anyone, and no one zoomed in? Okay. All right, it is 12:40, and we will reconvene back into open session. Item 6, everyone's had a chance to read the minutes. I would entertain a motion, if everyone is in agreement with those, to approve those.
So moved.
A motion and a second by Mrs. Henry. Any comment there? If not, all those in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Opposed by the same. Motion carries. Item number 7. Mr. McCullough?
got just a couple of highlights to hit in the director's report, and respond to any questions that you might have. On page 27 of the report, you see on the metrics, call center activity was not as good this month as what we would like to see. We had an average wait time of 3 minutes. That was in large part because we had a limited staff in the call center because of the COVID restrictions. People who were off on FMLA is related to the COVID rules. So we were implementing work from home for some of the employees in the call center and in the customer service representatives, but unfortunately we don't have the ability to direct calls outside of the office. So we were relying on the folks that we had in the office, and we only had about an average of 10 people a day in the call center. Now our situation is much improved. We think going forward we'll be able to turn that around. The meter reader error. I don't like what I'm saying. It's okay. So, on that same page, the meter reader, you'll see we had a little bit of a blip there on the meter reader error rate, and I asked about that, and the reason why is because we have so many AMI meters out there that the meters that we're actually reading are very few, and it's the ones that are really hard to read. So it's the ones that are under trees and behind brick walls and things like that that are hard to read. And so it's expected that we would have higher error rates on those hard to read meters.
And of course, we're working to get them all replaced. Some of those will take special procedures to get replaced. They're working their way through those. On page 29, you'll see the, speaking of AMI, you'll see the AMI report. And we're at 92.9%, which looks the same as what we had last month, but we actually added 1,131 electric meters over the last month. What's changed is the total number of meters count has gone up from 107,278 last month to 107,941 this month. So the percentage installed is actually about where it was last month. And as you'll see, the last bullet on page 29 says hard to access and commercial meters are the majority of what we have left. And we have to schedule the commercial meters, and we have to take special provisions on some of the hard to access meters to relocate them, in some case relocate the meter base to an area that's where we can get the meter installed. On page 31, see the water metering report, and we added 636 water meters last month, and so their statistics are coming along. Significant focus is being placed on resolving the cannot complete accounts and large commercial accounts. Those have to be scheduled, and you have to do that at a time that's convenient to the commercial customers. On page 33 and 34, I'll give you a brief overview of where we're at on the CM Customer Information System project. If you will recall previously, one of the critical path items had been Kubra, and so we've got the interface work has been completed with Kubra, and they're testing that now. So that seems to be okay now, and not a high risk situation for us. And the iTron integration has been completed and will be tested over the next month. So we got to test both of those interfaces, but it looks like those are no longer the critical path items. Training is now the critical path item, just because we've lost some time, during the COVID situation where there was work from home, and even the core team was not in the office, but they're back now. So the expectation is that training will be completed in the first week of September. We're looking for an October 1st launch, and that will be good because our fiscal year will line up with the new billing system. We won't have auditors that have to come in and look at two different systems. So. Any questions on any of that written material?
Questions from Mr. McCullough? Ms. Stafford?
Just a question that with the October 1, so it'll be like a shotgun start. Everybody, boom, will be turned on October 1st? Is that
The-
correct, or did I miss something?
Yeah, we'll go down on Banner and we'll go up with, this probably happened over a weekend, extended weekend, but we will go up on the new Oracle system.
Okay.
Andy, help me out here if I'm saying that wrong.
That is right. It's going to be, what day are we actually going down?
We go down on, we go down after our billing on September 30th, and we start our go-live activities, and we'll be up and running on October 5th.
Yeah, October the 5th, because I think the first actually falls on the weekend, right?
Yes.
So I think Monday will be the 5th. So there will be the time frame there. And you're correct, basically, you know, at that point, everything will be changed over. But of course, that's what we're doing right now, and that's what we've been doing for many months, and what we'll be doing in the upcoming months is day in the life, practicing, go live, you know, getting communications out to the customers, because account numbers, for example, will change for everyone. So there'll be some things that we've got to handle a lot of communication prior to that event. It's a little early now to start that, but we have a full slate of communication activities to go on before that. So it won't be a surprise to the customers when we actually do go live, but it will happen. It'll seem very short order for the customers who are on the outside looking in rather than on our side of the equation. So,
New logins and everything? Billing?
yeah.
What, with Kubra, with the, if they want to see their bill, if they want to see anything that they're currently seeing on the website, the customer service website, yes, they will be signing up. There's a few other things that they'll be sending out communication on as to our pay, and, combining accounts, things like that. So there'll be lots of communication coming out in Pro.
We've done everything we can to make it as seamless as possible, but there's some things that we just can't do
Right.
with a new system. So, and that's why we've been careful to make sure we put a really good, solid communications plan together. So hopefully we'll minimize the surprise for everyone, so.
Thank you. Any
I
other
wanted
questions?
to give a report on the outage that we had on June 4th. It's a pretty significant event, probably a historic event, at least since I've been here, in terms of the damage to our system. So on June 4th at about 9:30, 9:20, we had some high winds, gusty winds came into Lubbock, and these were 77-mile-an-hour wind gusts. If you look at the hurricane chart, that's in the hurricane force winds category. So it was very strong winds that hit our city, and it was a very unexpected storm. I was watching the weather on TV as knowing that there were some storms in the area, but it looked like this one was going to stay north of us, and then all of a sudden it just kind of swooshed down on us, and boy, when it hit with a fury, and it was very strong winds out of the north-northeast, which is an unusual direction for storms to come in on. But I've had some questions about, well, we've had high winds in Lubbock for years and years. Why was this one any different? Well, the problem is with wind, there's an exponential effect. The higher the winds, the forces on your poles and trees and everything else is exponentially greater as you increase. So if you look at that chart, 50-mile-an-hour winds, you have a force of around 1,000 newtons on the pole, but if you jump up to 77, it's 2.5 times as much force on the pole. So it's not linear as you might think, but it's exponential because it varies with the speed of the wind squared. So 77 is much worse than 50, for example. So here's the outage history. Initially, we had 16,836 customers out. We were able to get most of those back on fairly quickly, and so you can see how it degraded over time. But this was a multi-day event. It took us, because of the damage in our system, it took us 3 or 4 days to get everybody hooked back up. And I would say by the end of Friday, we were down below 500, or close to 500. And so after that, it was the ones that were left were the really hard problems. You had poles down, you had blinds down, you had trees wrapped around stuff. And so, when we work these big storms, we try to get many customers on as you can as quickly as possible. So you work the big outages first, and then you've got a bunch of small ones left, and so that's why it kind of flattens out on you after you get the big ones back on. But
David, how many poles did we lose?
we lost over 100 poles. I've got a graphic on that here in a minute. That's just a different graph that shows how we restored customers over time. So we had, at the outset of the storm, we had 20 feeder breakers operated. 7 of those went to lockout. So we had 7 feeders that were open, and that's not good when you get a call and you've got 7 feeders out. So, and of course, it's always our priority to get the feeders restored first. Get the feeders restored, even if you have to do some switching to isolate the damaged sections. That's what we did. But there was a lot of switching that had to be done where poles were down, like out on the Slayton Highway. We had 17 poles down in a row, and that section just had to be isolated because there's no way that you can get that line section rebuilt very quickly. And there were other cases like that around town where you had such major damage that you just had to cut it loose, isolate it, and get everybody around it back on. So here's the chart I was talking about, Mr. Boatman. It's about the fifth line item down, poles, 115 pole orders for broken poles or poles down. The different types of orders that were coming in, tree-related orders, a lot of those, wires down, arcing wires. And by the way, the Emergency Operations Center was activated for this event, and I went out there and served with the other folks, but we had police and fire and city streets, city staff working with us, helping us out. And a lot of times when we had a pole laying down across the highway, and lines arcing or whatever like that, the fire department or police department would stand by there and watch until, because we just had so many calls, we couldn't get everybody to all of those kind of cases at once. So they stood by there, and I really appreciate the help we got from the city on this event. So Friday afternoon, the event occurred Thursday night. Friday afternoon, there was still significant damage that we were working our way through, and it became obvious that we really needed to deploy some contractors to get things back on as quickly as possible. Fortunately, we had transmission contractors working in the area already, so we got with Mr. Orta, and we were able to get emergency contracts with Higher Power and UCS, and they agreed to stay over and work through the weekend. So we had one contractor that actually started Friday evening, and the other started on Saturday morning. I know one of the contractors set all those poles out on the Slayton Highway Saturday when I drove out there and saw them setting the poles, and they had most of those set Saturday. And then we had to rebuild transformer banks, hook up metering equipment and all that on Sunday before we could get those commercial customers restored before Monday morning. Our tree trimming contractor worked throughout the event, and we were glad to have them as well because a lot of tree damage. So the contractor invoice from one of them is $57,000. The other one is estimated $45,000. We don't have the final invoice from them yet. Here's the hours that were worked during this event: 2,000 regular hours, 3,000 overtime hours for a total of 5,000 hours. So if you figure an average rate of $40 an hour, this is $250,000. In terms of materials, we don't have a complete accounting yet of all the materials that were used, but we did, again, Mr. Orton, Purchasing Department, was very helpful in getting a rush order for 27 45-foot poles, and that was $14,000 worth of poles. So our crews and contractors worked staggered shifts around the clock until we had everybody back on. I was really proud of the effort, everybody pulling together to get this done. We only had one minor accident, and I was thankful for that as well. So, any questions on any of that?
Questions? Good job on that. I mean, that's pretty significant to get that back done in 24 hours. Other items?
Oh, yeah, this is Jason.
Jason?
Good afternoon. We'll start with the first report for overall construction. Report has changed a little bit from last month. I want to walk you through that briefly. You're going to see a few different colors on here. This is at the request of David. So one's going to be kind of a light red, if not pink. You're going to see that at the top end of your schedule. That's to help better identify some of the slips we've had from last month till now. And then the second color that is new is going to be a light blue. So periodically we're going to have delays or gaps in a schedule. So if we do a tie-in for a substation project earlier on, and we have crews demobilize and come back and do construction later on, if that's for outages or other concerns or other issues, we want to be able to show that because the project is open, it is in construction, but they're actually not boots on the ground. The first one you're going to see that has that is going to be co-op line swap, and there's a light blue segment that's been added for about 2 months in there. So a couple small changes. Overall, the same fit and format of the program schedule is the same. But now I'll walk through some of the updates from last month till now. In addition to the storm, we've had a pretty busy month since the last time we presented in front of you. On 6/8, Northwest McKenzie was placed in service. So that's the Greenfield 115 transmission line. Again, that was on 6/8. On 6/12, the Erskine to McKenzie line was also placed in service, and that was a line rebuild. So two pretty important lines for LP&L back in service so they can be used. Tomorrow, we're going to have substantial completion on Southeast to Oliver. So again, been a pretty busy month for the construction group. Targeting about a week for the commissioning group to be done with Southeast to Oliver before that can be placed in service. There was a slight delay on this project due to some concrete breaks, but that's been resolved and we're moving forward with it. On your second page, we're going to go through the issues and risks that we've identified. First one is going to be with Thompson to Vicksburg. We're working through some outage coordination issues with the overall voltage conversion. You are showing right now a 4-week slip in that project. That's not entirely accurate due to we're having to kind of push and pull that to make sure we don't put the system in jeopardy when we start voltage conversion and some of the tailing projects right before voltage conversion. So that one's kind of in flux right now. No jeopardy to the overall program. We're just trying to fit it in because it's a pretty small scope. It's only going to take 2 weeks of active construction to finish that after the foundation is set. So more to report on that next month. Next one is going to be Northwest McKenzie. As I said, Northwest McKenzie is in service. However, there was some material stolen off of the right-of-way, and the way that the construction contracts are written is the care and custody of the material is in the contractor's hands, so the contractor is responsible for that. So there is no cost to LP&L for that stolen material, and they will install the equipment once it is received by LP&L. Another big kind of hiccup for us is on the co-op tie-in, and that's where you're going to see that light blue about 6 lines down on the overall schedule. When the contractor was setting the anchor bolt tie to actually do the tie-in for the co-op project, the anchor bolt cage was slightly oblonged, so we're having to work through that foundation and that structure with the manufacturer to get it set. So what that means in short is we've had to move the tie-in project instead of happening first to last. So again, no real issues to the program. It's just instead of it happening this past month, it's going to happen later on in the project, scheduled around September. So just a heads up there. Holly to Southeast from a right-of-way perspective is moving along. It's looking a lot better than it was several months ago. So big kudos to the legal and right-of-way team on that one on getting the easement signed. Let's see. Next big note is Southeast to Oliver. So again, as I said, tomorrow we're looking to have substantial completion. Next week in-service date, there was one damaged pole that I had reported to this group. It was T38. So that top section has been ordered. It has a pretty substantial lead time of about 16 weeks. A temporary repair has been made on that structure, so it could be stood and the project could be energized. The construction team will have to come back when that top section does arrive and stack it out, just to make it as was originally designed for the life of the asset. But for now, the system will be placed back into service again mid-next week. At a high level, that's the only updates I have for the group this month. Obviously, there's more detail in the subsequent pages and on the sheet. But I'll open it up if anyone has any questions.
Questions for Jason? Ms. Stubbard?
2 questions, sir. What's a shoe fly? And then what materials were stolen, poles or,
So I'll get your second one first. It's a little bit
Okay.
easier. So it's what we call a davit arm. So it's an arm that hangs off the side of the structure that actually connects the LPGW, or the very, very top wire. That's your communication and your static wire. So it's a real short arm that connects that. So they put a temporary solution up there to still be able to hold it, to maintain the communications line and place the line in service. So it's a temporary solution. We don't want it to be permanent. So we had to work with Felix to get those parts ordered, again, at the expense of the contractor. So we're going to do an offset with them. But it's an arm, essentially. And a shoe fly is a temporary transmission line. So in the event for Northeast, that's probably where you saw that one, in order to keep that transformer in service, since we're going to be working on some subsequent bays and a portion of a T-line, we want to make sure that transformer is still in service. So we kind of do a build around to make sure we can work on the portion of the station while maintaining the customer load. So it's a temporary transmission line.
What do they do with that arm that they stole?
Pardon?
What do they do with the arm that they stole?
Oh, the ones that were taken from the right
Yeah.
way? I don't know. It's steel, so they could scrap them so they could find someone to take them.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Andy, item 9.
All right, good afternoon. What I'm going to talk about today is we started the conversation at last month's board meeting about a return to normal business operations. And at the time, we were talking about disconnections and how we had halted that effort in middle of March. And along with that, we had also stopped charging late fees for customers, and this was in an effort to assist our customers as much as we could throughout the pandemic event. So we talked last month about reinstating the disconnects and also finding ways to help our customers to avoid that. Looking towards the Public Utility Commission, at the meeting last month in May, they had discussed about waiting another month before they made that decision to allow those utilities outside of the ERCOT area to begin disconnecting again. They pushed that off until the meeting on Thursday of this week, I guess, Friday of last week. And at that point, they did allow that suspension of disconnects to expire, but they did ask utilities to provide at least 2 weeks' notice to their customers so they could be preparing for that and find ways that they could get current on their bill or set up a payment arrangement. Before I go into some of those details, though, I kind of wanted to give you an update on where we are related to some of the statistics that we've been tracking with our customers since we suspended disconnects in middle of March. You can see that we've continued to see past due accounts rise. Last month, it looked like it had leveled out, and it had, but then since then, it has continued to rise on a daily basis. So you can kind of see where the trend line in that yellow line was pretty sharp. We have seen it starting to slow a little bit, but still pretty rapid increase on a daily basis. Again, on the late fees, we track how many accounts would have been eligible for a late fee. They did not receive a late fee, but would have been if that was still in force. Again, this was a scenario where we thought, middle part of last month, that it had stabilized. We did see a kind of a tick up again, pretty high tick increase in the end of the month. It has returned down a little bit lower, but we're still seeing in the 1,500 customers a day that would typically be eligible for a late fee at this point in time. We've also tracked our payment arrangements that have been voided, meaning the customer did not meet the terms that were in that original payment arrangement. We have seen that subside, come back down. It has ticked up a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but still it's at a pretty low level where we're less than 100 a day for the most part. Usually Wednesdays we see a pretty good tick for some reason, but that's what's going on there. Customers that are eligible for disconnection, if on a given day you turn that back on again and started disconnecting, you see last month we had about a little less than 8,000 customers that would have been eligible with outstanding bills of about 2.8 million. That's grown to about a little over 9,500 at the end of, well, at least the most recent numbers in June, at a value of about 3.5 million. The next line shows how many customers have actually established a payment arrangement. This is in addition to the first line. So we have about 4,000 customers at the end of May and about 4,600 at the middle part of June that have signed up for a payment arrangement. So going forward, we're obviously hopeful that the other 9,500 customers will be able to set up a payment arrangement or find assistance to help them with their outstanding bills going forward. At the bottom of this slide, you can see the average outstanding amount or average bill that's outstanding for each of the utilities, about $190 for the average electric customer, and you can see beyond that. Some of them have gone down a little bit on average from last month, and others have gone up a little bit. It's kind of all over the place. Not sure I can explain the direction, but that's what we've seen from our statistics. So, due to the direction of the PUC on Friday, where they allowed that suspension effort to cease, and as we look to continue to return to normal business operations, we will be implementing a 6-month repayment program to assist our customers with repayment of their past due balances. The PUC did recommend a 2-week notice, so we will not implement this until the beginning of July, which gives our customers a couple of weeks to get their budget in order and look for assistance and begin looking at how they will be able to manage their past due accounts if they have that. So what that means, and I'll explain a little bit more detail on the next couple of slides, but basically the statement that the customer receives that's dated in July, so between July 1st and July 31st, that statement balance will be divided by 6 if that works best for the customer, up to 6. And so they'll pay 6 equal installments of that total July balance. So their first installment will come within 5 days of setting up the payment arrangement. And then thereafter, each monthly payment will be basically due on a date that they set, a date that works best for them. And again, the payment arrangement will be the only payment they make in July. In the months following, they will make that payment arrangement payment in addition to the regular bill, so they'll need to be prepared for that. We obviously are encouraging, and we're going to have a significant communications effort to help our customers get set up for payment arrangements to reduce their financial burden. The benefits of doing this is they will avoid all late fees, they will avoid disconnection of utility services, and they'll be able to spread out any built-up balances over a period of time. We're going to call this effort Pay in 6, and that is, you'll see that logo in a lot of our customer communications that will go out, and be a reminder for customers along with inserts, onserts, different communications events that will be going on. We do want to remind our customers that they will need to stay current on their payment arrangement to avoid disconnection, to avoid late charges or fees, and to avoid having to pay for the full balance before they can be reconnected. So we're going to be working with our customers to avoid that situation. Here is an example of a statement. This statement's dated July the 10th. Just to remind everyone, this will apply to all statements dated in July. This customer would have, for example, an example customer has a $532 total current account balance as of this statement, and we'll basically just very simply divide that by 6, so they would be paying $88.69 for 6 months. That would be all they pay in July, but then in August that would be added to their August and through December statements. Another example, the July 31st statement date. This one has an $887 outstanding balance. Again, simply dividing by 6, they'll be paying a little under $150 a month for the 6 months to get caught back up on that outstanding balance. That, of course, is if the customer is unable to get any financial assistance And so we're going to be talking about that in the next section of my presentation. But here's an example of an insert that will be going out with the customer statement in the month of July. And so it'll be giving information on how to do this. We'll have an in-depth section on our website that will also help customers understand how to get this set up. They will have to contact us to be able to get this set up and to avoid any financial ramifications of not getting one set up. So again, customers will need to call us. Our first option would be to email us. We're anticipating a pretty large call volume, and so it may be simpler for our customers to actually send us an email at customerfirst@lpnl.com. They can provide their name, their account number, and a good telephone number where we can reach out to them and get that set up. They can also call us. And then if they are still having issues with being able to make these payments, we anticipate that there will be a number of those folks wanting them to reach out to assistance agencies. So, any questions on the Pay in 6 plan before I move on to the assistance efforts?
Questions? So on that statement date, go back 2 slides. Right there, that one.
Yes.
So this is starting July 1st, all unpaid can be subject to fees. If you have to set it up before your July statement due date. So if my statement due date's the 10th, I only have basically 9 days, and
Well,
other folks will get till July 30th if that's
remember,
there.
these will only be for statements dated in the month of July. So the first customer set of group that will get a statement will be dated July 1st. So their first payment will be due on July the 21st or 22nd, wherever that falls. And so really the very first group of customers, the earliest that they would have to make that payment would be the 3rd week of July.
How long do they have to get that set up? 20
They need
days?
to get it set, so they'll get their statement on July 1st. They'll need to get a payment arrangement set up before the due date on July the 21st or
20 days.
22nd. Basically 21 days is what they have to get that set up. So yeah, they have plenty of time to do that. They'll more than likely be getting reminder notices and automated phone calls to remind them that, you know, they have a balance due to avoid a disconnection. So there'll be plenty of reminders going out to our
But there's
customers.
not a group based on your statement date that I only have 10 days.
No.
Everyone
No.
will have 21
The very
days.
minimum, you'll have 21
Okay.
days to get it set up.
That's the only
Yes, sir.
question.
That's right. So, and actually from now, you have over a month to be
Once
preparing
this
for
rolls out,
this.
correct.
So that's right.
Okay. Other questions?
On the assistance that we're wanting to promote, we work with a number of assistance agencies in town to assist our customers, and I've highlighted some now that we know that have financial assistance available in one form or fashion. I do want to point out that many of these agencies have not resumed in-person visits for a large part, so they are directing a lot of the citizens to online or to give a call, and so we will do our best to have information available in our lobby to, for example, applications or things like that that can be picked up. That might delay the process a little bit if you pick up an application and mail it in and kind of get in line that way. If you want quicker assistance, you probably would be better off to get online or get on the phone with those agencies. But you can see the 7 agencies here: Neighborhood House, Catholic Family Charities, Salvation Army, Adult and Child Protective Services, Workforce Solutions, Lubbock County General Assistance, and VetStar. Also, phone numbers are here. We'll post all of this information on our website so citizens will have quick access to all that. I want to talk a little bit about Neighborhood House. We have Joy Loper here with us today, the back waving. She's here in case you have any additional questions that I can answer, but Neighborhood House is a very, very good partner in the community to provide assistance to the citizens. Fortunately, they have been the recipient of $1 million in the CARES Act fund. The City of Lubbock City Council just approved that funding, I think at the most recent City Council meeting last Tuesday. Funds can be used for rental assistance or for utility payments. I think they were basically splitting that half and half to provide relief for folks who are financially impacted from COVID. Again, this application is online at the City of Lubbock's website. Basically, if you just go to the city's website, click on Departments, find Community Development, it's right on the front page there. And I didn't mention also Karen Murphy, also back here, is with us today with Community Development. So she's also here to answer any questions you may have. There is a link on their website that's called Rental Assistance and Utility Assistance Application. That's the form that can be filled out by the citizen. Again, there is also a phone number, 775-2296, or email to cdinfo@mylubbock.us. All of those are avenues that you can get in touch with community development. If you don't have any internet access, an application can be mailed, and they have a drop box at 1708 Crickets Avenue where that can be received, it can be submitted. Neighborhood House also has comprehensive energy assistance program funding from the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. This funding is exclusively for energy-related charges, so for electricity, gas, or propane. It's specific to that. And so, again, there's another application for that, again, on the Community Development website, and there will be a link under the Comprehensive Energy Assistance Program called Utility Assistance. So pretty easy to find. I went on just to make sure it's relatively easy to locate on their website, and it is. So hopefully individuals will be able to find it with relative ease. Catholic Family Charities is another source. They have received funding for customers who have been financially impacted. It is available for utility payment assistance, and it is not restricted. It could be used for all parts of that bill, not just electricity like the CAP funding is. There are no income eligibility requirements. I didn't mention that, but on the CAP funding, there are income eligibility requirements, but I don't believe there is any income requirement for the CRF or the CARES funding. Is that right?
The CARES funding, yes, but not the CRF.
Okay. So again, all these cases are considered case by case. Salvation Army is another that can provide some assistance. They have a 1-year set limitation of $150, and they are currently only operating upon appointment, and through curbside service. So customers or citizens who need to reach out to them can do so, but that's another source of funding. And then VetStar is another relatively new organization that has received funding from the Texas Veterans Commission, and that is restricted to veterans with some qualifications. So again, citizens who might apply for that need to go online to determine whether or not they meet those qualifications for funding. And then a few others. Adult and Child Protective Services, those would be restricted to those who are over age 65 or adults who are disabled. They have funding available. Workforce Solutions has funding available, but that is restricted to clients that are already working through them. And then also Lubbock County General Assistance. If you go to the county's website, click on Departments, there will be a section called General Assistance. Those are for indigent families who are residents in Lubbock County, so there may be some folks who could apply for that funding as well. So that kind of gives an overview of lots of different areas of assistance in the community. Of course, there are also churches and other avenues where citizens could reach out to provide or find assistance. So we're certainly mindful of the difficulties that a subset of our community may be going through, certainly those who've been without a job or maybe still without a job. And so we're certainly mindful of that, and we're going to be doing our very best to walk them through this process, to make it as painless as we can, to stretch these past due amounts out as long as we can. So that's an effort that all of our customer service reps are being trained on. We've actually brought in additional temporary help and training them. We've been training them over the last several weeks to get them ready for when these calls start coming in. So hopefully, with all of that, we'll be able to provide a lot of help for folks who need it right now. So that's the extent of my presentation. So if you have any questions for myself or Ms. Loper or Ms. Murphy, I'll certainly open it up to you.
Questions? Ms. Devard?
if someone needs assistance, they have to ask for it. We can't, I mean, they have to, and if they don't have access to the internet, they can go by or call. I'm just trying to think of that population that often don't have internet access. And so like Upbring or whatever, if they have clients, how are they encouraging them or trying to get a conversation going to say about this, that, you know, you are going to need to pay your utilities, there is a payout. How do you protect the confidentiality of that client yet still communicate to them, I guess is my concern or question.
I might let Mrs. Loper just
Okay,
provide
thank you.
that information for the, oh, I'm sorry.
That's a very good question. We are very in tune to do that because we have to deal with those type of clients and citizens every day. That's an outreach that we do. We take referrals from all agencies, so that's something that Neighborhood House and Community Development, City of Lubbock does it all the time. Because we have to reach those people. As the council has always tasked me with is, how do you reach the people you don't know you're reaching? So we find other ways to do that, so.
So will that be a normal question when you interact with those individuals? Do you say, do you need food? Do you need this or
Yes.
that? So
Well,
is that kind of on your checklist of questions to ask them?
Yes, ma'am. We don't necessarily do a case management. Just for an example, right now, due to COVID, we're in the same building as the health department. So anytime we have a quarantine family, that they immediately are quarantined, so the entire family is either isolated or quarantined, they can't get out, and a lot of times they lost their job or they don't have the money to do that. We actually are able to go do the food, we purchase the food and deliver it, but then we also ask, do you need rental assistance, do you need housing, do you need utilities, all of those kind of things. So that's just one example of how we outreach right now. And I'll let you,
Well, and as
Joy.
far as Neighborhood House is concerned, I mean, we have a 52-year history here in Lubbock County of providing basic needs to families that are low income and are experiencing a crisis. And so they know we're there. They know what we do. And the grapevine is a marvel to behold. You help one person with something, you'd be surprised how many are going to be calling you for that very thing. We're also listed with 211 Search in Texas. So there are numerous ways for them to access our services. Also through networking with the other social service ministries and all of benevolence ministries within Lubbock County. So they find us. Does that answer your question?
Right. I guess my question to you, Andy, and the two of you, thank you for being here. The 9,500 that have no payment plan right now, we can't really share that list. That's proprietary. I just want to know, we can't really be proactive, but your questions of working with this, you can be proactive in saying, have you been paying your utilities? Do you have a payment plan? Or if you don't have one, you can do that because, Andy, we can't give them the list of the 9,500. I just want to make sure I understand what we're limited by.
Yeah, but they can put information in those bills about who to contact.
Yeah.
That's one way to reach them.
Right.
Plus, like I said, just the marketing that the city does, community development does that, all of that goes out to the community or out throughout Lubbock County as well.
Yes.
And and you said something about them being able to access with, because they didn't have a internet or anything like that. We will mail applications to them if they can't, if they don't have that capability.
When you mail an application, do you have a stamped envelope for them to mail it back?
We don't do that as a rule. We can certainly, but we don't.
I just think it's important that with this suspension, that we do everything that's humanly possible, legally and proprietary-wise, to let these people know that there is assistance out there. And then I think, whether it's in church bulletins, there's lots of, I'm sure you know that network much better than I ever would. But to make sure that people say, well, I didn't even know about that. I think that redundancy, to certainly network and work with those people to let them know there are resources there. And And also, thank you for what you're doing. And Andy, that was a great report. Thank you.
Ms. Schultz?
And that's only to consumers, right? Individuals, no sole proprietor type businesses or small businesses that need help?
As far as CAP, no, that
Okay.
is individual.
Okay.
The pay in six, though, will be available for all small businesses and things like that, too, so that they at least have the opportunity to spread out their payments if they can't be caught up all at once.
The pay in 6 is anyone who's past due
It's
currently.
anyone. Yes, it's all customers.
Oh, all customers, even if you're not, well, I guess you would have to be, but yes. Right. Okay. And then, I'm guessing, Matt, you have stuff lined up to, the marketing of it, basically. Oh, sorry, Ms. Henry?
Let me try this. I'm very grateful that you've added the helping hand piece to the website. Is there also a way to add that to the bill, the paper bill?
We do put that on the insert. I don't know if we have anything planned. Oh, there's one currently running for, it's an insert that prints directly on the statement that promotes the project Helping Hands.
So it is on the bill itself, not an insert?
It's not an insert.
Okay, I just know people who just throw inserts away without looking at
So
them.
hopefully they'll pay more attention to it.
That's what I'm,
On the face of the bill itself.
perfect, that's what I'm hoping.
So Andy covered some of this, but just to kind of recap what we're going to do in terms of getting this out to the public and the media. As of right now, the website's been updated for cityloveutilities.com. So right now, if you go on there, there's a giant box where that Project Helping Hand box has been the last few months. We've replaced that front and center. That is this return to business operations. And we've written out basically a fact sheet. It's about 4 pages long, but it has all of the different areas where people can go to get assistance. It starts with the Pay in 6 plan, and then we talk about our regular payment extensions and the coronavirus relief funds. And then it goes into our payment assistance agencies, and we give a full description right there on the homepage of what each one of these assistance agencies does, relatively how much funds they have to give out, and how somebody applies for it. And we've made sure that we've gone through and we've linked everything so that somebody that goes to the homepage that clicks on that box that's right there in the center, if they want to, partake in the programs through Ms. Murphy's group, it takes them right to the city's website where they can fill out the application. Similarly with Project Helping Hand, it takes them right to the application. So we try to make it as much of a one-stop shop as possible off of our homepage. But then, as been talked about, not everyone has internet access, and so to the best of our ability, starting today through basically July, we're going to be doing a constant social media post for the program overall, but then also just individual pieces. So we'll try to blanket social media with that. I'll send out a press release this week. I'm sitting down with the paper tomorrow, but I'll send out a press release this week, so I'm sure I'll do interviews all this week. I'll send out another press release on July 1st. I'll do another round of interviews on July 1st. Again, pointing everybody to cityloveutilities.com right there on the homepage. And then we have an insert, which Andy showed you that will be going out in July. We also have Project Helping Hands insert that's going right now, and the front page of the bill will have a Pay in 6 insert right there on the front page. And then, like I say, we did this fact sheet. Everything that's on that homepage of the website is taken right off of this. And so I've shared that with the city managers so that the city council members have access to this, so that anybody that requests information, they can give them this, and they'll have all the information including the contact numbers. Any board members, I'm happy to share this with you as well, so that if you're out in the community and you happen to run into somebody and you have this on, you can just hand this to them directly if they can't go access the internet. So those are kind of all the ways, but and we also, as of Friday, gave the information to the call center. That's what they're kind of training off of, and hopefully when people call in, they can direct them to the website. It's easy for them to explain it. But as any of these things, as we go through it, there will probably be need to reinforce certain areas of this that we can see are not really taking hold. And ultimately, it'll be communication amongst Ms. Murphy's group with Neighborhood House and all of our partners, just to make sure that everybody is sending people to the right areas and there's communication across the board.
Questions? Ms. Henry?
Is there any television information going out? I worry about people who don't read the paper and don't go online.
I will share this with the city's communications department so they make sure that, you know, whatever runs out there can. There is an option to do paid media. When all of this began, we had a media buy that was going to run through the summer months about just energy efficiency and education and Project Helping Hand generally. And we put that on hold when we made all of our kind of temporary freezes to certain areas of the budget. But that is an area that we could go back and explore to try to, you know, get some radio play and television, which comes with web banners, so that if somebody goes to say Everything Lubbock, there's a web banner that would take them to our website. It's what we've done in the past. We just put that on pause due to everything that was going on, but that is an option that we can go, a route that we can go down if we feel like we need to get more information in front of folks.
Ms. Stafford?
Do we have the ability to do PSAs on radio and then certainly talk shows that are out there, or?
I have 2 radio shows lined up this week, and I'm sure I'll be doing a lot of radio and, like I say, the news interviews. Typically for things like this, when you do a media buy, you get PSAs included in that. We can certainly check to see and see what's available to us, but normally that comes with at least some level of buying paid media on there, and then they give that to you in addition. But I can explore that as well to see if there's an option there.
Ms. Henry?
I think without any sports, they're looking for things to talk about. It might be a really good time to sneak in and get some of those people to interview you.
No, that's true. And like I say, I'll be doing different radio shows, and the good thing about those, especially with like the KFYOs, is they do a really good job of taking that, putting it on their website and social media, and sending those interviews out as well. And I have to imagine that all the news networks are going to want to do stories about this week, and then as we go into the program as well. So I'll try to get as much on the earned media as I can. So.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank y'all. Thank you, ladies, for y'all's time and input as well. I know there's several more steps to get through before we can get that out to the public, but good job. Item 10, renew, correct?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Let's have a quick recap of what we all did last month, and we'll start off with our financial statement section. I'm going to start it off with our balance sheet this month, as we did last month. If you notice in our current assets, we have a $17.4 million decrease, and that is largely due to our cash having a timing differences and us making payments on the bonds and city running a little bit behind in making those adjustments. Overall, there was a decrease of $7 million in our AR, but when we compare it to the prior month, we actually saw a slight increase of $1 million. Now, that is partially due to something resembling normacy, along with increase in the temperature, so we'll continue to watch over that. Our non-current asset also increased by $28 million. That is largely due to our construction in progress. As Jason and his team mentioned, we are continuing to build new things, so when we compare it to the prior month, we actually had a $10.5 million increase in the category of construction in progress. And that's a recap of our assets. Now, when we go on to the next page of liabilities, our current liability has a total decrease of $4.3 million. That is largely due to our our AP being $12 million lower. That is due to timing differences, and that decrease is being offset by the increase of $17.3 million in our notes program, which is the Bank of America's notes program that we are utilizing to pay for all the good construction that is going on. On the next page, on the revenue side of things, our revenues have decreased $6 million in compared to where we were this time in the past year in accumulation, but that is largely due to our lower PPRF rates and now our power marketing being part of that revenue. But on the other hand, our expenses are also decreased by $8.2 million. That substantial 8 million decrease comes from the decrease in our purchase of fuel and power due to the lower natural gas prices that we are seeing. Now, moving on to the next page, if we look at the cash flow, we are positive in our operating activities, which is a good thing. Our financing and investing activities are a little bit lower and in negatives, but that indicates good things again, because we did make a bond payment on principal in around $15 million. So everything's looking good on cash flow too. Any questions?
Questions?
On the budget sheet, page 71. So remind me, we have in distribution our streetlights.
Yes.
That's our budget for all of our streetlight maintenance, which includes areas that are not certificated for our service. Isn't that right, Andy?
That is correct.
Okay. So is there any offset for that in the transfer from other funds that's in the revenue side or in the reimbursement, city utilities and credit cards?
No, there is not.
Okay. I'll just,
We pay the full freight on all the streetlights in
okay.
city
Okay.
limits.
I thought that was the case. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I remember that correctly.
That's right.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Ms. Stafford?
Where did all the costs go, or will that be next month, on the lines that were down?
Yes.
And David talked about that.
Yes,
Where were those costs for the poles and the contractors and all of that?
That would actually go.
Is that going to be next month?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be in next month's.
It'll be it'll be next month. Well, it'll be in the,
Month half.
June.
right?
the June report, so that'll be in.
Will it be under streetlights, or where will it be? That expense?
So it'll be under the overhead, for the most part, overhead lines, 7413 would be where probably the majority of that.
Okay, 7413, okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Andy.
I was just going to make a comment that obviously we've been working very hard on the budget, and we'll be bringing that to the full board at the next meeting in July for your approval. And so we will be setting a finance committee meeting. I think we've already gotten with everyone's calendars, hopefully, for July the 7th at 10 a.m. And location, where is it? We haven't determined location yet, so we'll get that determined. But I just wanted to let y'all know about that in case you weren't aware that we were going to give a preview and have an in-depth discussion at that July the 7th meeting. We will be sending out we'll be posting it and sending it out, the budget itself, probably a week in advance of that meeting, so you'll have an opportunity to go through it on your own, come in and ask questions on the 7th, and hopefully have time, if you have anything else that comes up between then and the regular board meeting on July 21st, we could discuss it at that time. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on what the game plan is on the budget. This year it's about a month later than normal. The whole process has been pushed backwards a little bit. We needed the extra time to get everything put together, but also the entire city process has been shifted back a little bit. So just want to give you all a heads up on that.
Thank you. All right, no other items there. We will move to the consent agenda items, which is items 11 through 14. I'm going to assume everyone's had a chance to read through those. Is there any questions on those? If not, I'll entertain a motion for items 11 through 14.
So moved.
Got a motion by Kevin, any a second? Got a second by Mr. Schultz. All those in favor, do so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same. Motion carries. Brings us to our item 15. We are adjourned. Thank y'all.